My name is Brady, and I am 54 years old. This morning I sat on my front porch like I have done for the past 3 years, expecting nothing. Father's Day had become just another Sunday, but then the mailman handed me a box with my daughter's name on it. Stephanie, the daughter who had not spoken to me in 3 years. My hands trembled as I reached for it. That is when Diane, my wife, stepped outside. Her face went pale. She whispered, "Don't open it." Her voice shook with fear, and I knew right then that she had been hiding something from me. Before I tell you what was inside that box, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. If you have ever felt like a stranger in your own family, hit that like button. And if you want to find out what my wife was so afraid of, subscribe and stay with me. This story changed my life forever. I grew up in a small town in rural Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knew your name and your business. My father died when I was 11 years old. A heart attack took him on a Tuesday morning while he was getting ready for work. One moment he was tying his boots, and the next moment he was gone. My mother found him on the bedroom floor. I still remember her scream. It was the kind of sound that stays with you forever. After that, everything changed. My mother took 2 shifts at the textile factory just to keep food on the table. She would leave before dawn and come home after dark. Her hands were always cracked and rough from the chemicals and the cold. I used to watch her rub lotion on them at night, wincing at the sting. She never complained, though. Not once. She just kept going. I started delivering newspapers when I was 12. Every morning at 5 o'clock, I would ride my bike through the empty streets, throwing papers onto porches. The money was not much, but it helped. I learned early that nothing in this life comes free. You earn everything. Nobody hands you anything. That lesson stayed with me. It shaped who I became. When I was 22, I met Diane. She was working part-time as a waitress at a little diner in Columbus. I walked in one evening after a long day at the construction site where I had just started working. I was covered in dust and sweat, and I almost did not go in because I was embarrassed about how I looked. But I was hungry, so I pushed through the door. And there she was. Diane had soft brown hair and a smile that made me forget what I wanted to order. I just sat there like a fool staring at her. She laughed and asked if I needed more time with the menu. I said yes, even though I had not even opened it. I just wanted her to come back to my table again. Our first date was at that same diner. I only had enough money for 2 cups of coffee, but we talked until the manager started stacking chairs around us. She told me about her dreams of having a family someday. I told her about my father and how I wanted to be the kind of man he never got the chance to be. We talked about everything and nothing, and by the end of that night, I knew I was going to marry her. 2 years later, I did. Our wedding was small, held at a little church with fewer than 30 guests. My mother cried the whole time. She said my father would have been proud. I hoped she was right. When I was 26, Stephanie was born. I will never forget the moment the nurse placed her in my arms. She was so small, so fragile. Her tiny fingers wrapped around my thumb, and she held on like she was never going to let go. I looked down at that little face and I made a promise. I swore I would give her everything I never had. I would be there for her. I would work as hard as it took to give her a good life. And I did work hard. Too hard, maybe. I took every extra shift I could get. I started as a laborer on construction sites, hauling materials and mixing concrete. Over the years, I worked my way up to site foreman. The pay got better, but the hours got longer. I would leave the house at 5 in the morning and sometimes not get home until 9 or 10 at night. There were weeks when I barely saw Stephanie awake. but I told myself it was worth it. I was building something, a future, a life for my family. Every night, no matter how late I came home, I would go into Stephanie's room. I would stand by her bed and watch her sleep for a moment. Then I would lean down and kiss her forehead. She never woke up. She never knew I was there, but I was there, every single night. Diane stayed home with Stephanie during those early years. She was a wonderful mother, patient and loving. She read stories and baked cookies and took Stephanie to the park. I was grateful for that. I could not be there, so at least Diane was. Sometimes, late at night, I would catch Diane looking at me with an expression I could not quite read. She would turn away before I could ask what was wrong. I figured she was just tired. We were both tired. Raising a family is exhausting. I did not think much of it. I had this dream in my head, a picture of how our lives would turn out. I imagined myself as an old man sitting on this very porch, surrounded by my children and grandchildren. Sunday dinners with the whole family. Laughter and stories and love. That was what I was working toward. That was why I sacrificed so much. I thought I was building a fortress of love, a safe place where my family would always be protected. I thought every brick I laid and every hour I worked was adding to that fortress. I did not know I was building it alone. When Stephanie turned 15, something shifted. I noticed it slowly at first. Little things that did not seem important on their own, but added up over time. She stopped running to the door when I came home. When she was younger, she would hear my truck in the driveway and come flying out of the house, jumping into my arms before I even made it to the porch. But that stopped. One day, she just was not there anymore when I walked through the door. Dinner became quiet. Stephanie would sit with her phone in her hand, barely looking up. When I asked about school or her friends, she gave one-word answers. Fine. Good. Whatever. Then she would ask to be excused and disappear into her room. I told myself it was normal. All teenagers go through phases. She was growing up, becoming her own person. It was healthy to pull away a little. That is what I told myself. But there were other things that worried me more. Diane started acting strange. I would walk into the kitchen and find her whispering on the phone. The moment she saw me, she would end the call. When I asked who she was talking to, she would say it was just a friend, nothing important. But her eyes would not meet mine. One evening I came home early. A job got canceled, so I had a few unexpected hours. I walked in through the back door, and I heard Diane in the living room. She was on the phone, speaking in a low voice. "He cannot know," she said. "Not yet." I froze. My heart started pounding. What could she not tell me? I wanted to walk in and demand an answer, but something stopped me. Fear, maybe, or denial. I just turned around quietly and went back outside. I sat in my truck for 20 minutes before going in through the front door like I had just arrived. Diane smiled at me and asked about my day. She did not mention the phone call. Neither did I. Stephanie's 16th birthday came around, and I wanted to do something special. I remembered how she used to talk about wanting a certain kind of bicycle, a red one with handbrakes and a basket on the front. She had seen it in a magazine when she was 13 and talked about it for weeks. I saved up and bought it for her. On her birthday morning, I wheeled it out into the living room with a big ribbon on the handlebars. I was so excited to see her face. Stephanie came downstairs, still half asleep. She looked at the bicycle. Her expression did not change. "Thanks, Dad," she said. Her voice was flat, empty. Then she went back to her room. Later that day, I walked past her door and heard her on the phone with a friend. She was laughing about something. Then I heard her say, My dad thinks a bike can make up for never being around. So pathetic. I stood there in the hallway, unable to move. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. My own daughter thought I was pathetic. She thought my gift was a joke. I went downstairs and sat on the couch, staring at nothing. Diane found me there an hour later. "Are you okay?" she asked. I nodded. I did not tell her what I had heard. I did not want to say it out loud. Saying it would make it real. After that, I tried to change. I talked to my boss about adjusting my schedule. I started coming home earlier, hoping to have dinner with the family. But every time I sat down at the table, Stephanie was somewhere else. Study group, dance practice, at a friend's house. There was always a reason she could not be there. Diane would shrug and say, "She is busy, Brady. Do not take it personally." But how could I not take it personally? My daughter was avoiding me. One night I decided to have a real conversation with her. I knocked on her door and asked if we could talk. She let me in reluctantly and sat on her bed with her arms crossed. I asked about her plans for college. I asked what she was interested in studying. I tried to connect with her to show her that I cared about her life. She cut me off. "You do not know anything about my life, Dad," she said. "You are always at work. You have no idea who I am." I wanted to explain. I wanted to tell her that everything I did was for her. Every hour I worked, every sacrifice I made, it was all for her future. But before I could say any of that, she stood up and walked out of the room. I sat there on her bed alone, surrounded by posters of bands I did not recognize and photos of friends I had never met. My daughter had become a stranger, and I did not know how to reach her. I kept telling myself she would understand when she grew older. When she had her own family, she would see why I worked so hard. She would appreciate what I did. But I was starting to wonder if I had already lost her. Stephanie graduated high school with honors. I was proud of her, even though she barely acknowledged me at the ceremony. She was accepted into a university in California, nearly 2,000 miles from home. It was a good school with a strong program in her field. I was happy for her. But part of me was terrified. The day we drove her to campus, I tried to make the trip special. I suggested we stop at interesting places along the way, make it a family road trip. Diane said we did not have time. Stephanie just put her headphones in and looked out the window. When we arrived at the dorm, I carried boxes up 4 flights of stairs. My back ached and my knees protested, but I did not complain. I wanted to help. I wanted to be useful. When everything was unpacked, Stephanie hugged Diane for a long time. They whispered to each other, and Diane cried. Then Stephanie turned to me. She gave me a quick hug, more of a pat, really, and said, "Bye, Dad. Thanks for the help." That was it. Diane stayed for a week to help Stephanie get settled. I went home alone. The house felt enormous without them. I wandered from room to room, not sure what to do with myself. When Diane finally came back, she seemed different, distant. She talked constantly about how wonderful Stephanie's new life was, how happy she seemed. I felt like an outsider listening to stories about people I did not know. At first, Stephanie called home every week, but she only talked to Diane. If I answered the phone, she would chat for maybe 2 minutes before saying she had to go. Class was starting. Her roommate needed something. There was always an excuse. I started texting her instead. Simple messages. "Hope you're having a good day. Thinking about you. Let me know if you need anything." She rarely responded. When she did, it was usually just one word. "Thanks. Okay. Busy." Months passed. The calls became less frequent. The texts stopped altogether. Then I discovered something that made my blood run cold. I was looking for a receipt in the office when I found a bank statement. Diane had been transferring money from our savings account. Not small amounts, thousands of dollars over several months. I confronted her that evening. "What is this money for?" I asked, holding up the statement. Diane looked nervous. "It is for Stephanie," she said. "Books, supplies. You know how expensive college is." But the numbers did not add up. The transfers were far more than any student would need for books. "Is there something you are not telling me?" I asked. Diane looked away. "You are being paranoid, Brady. It is just money for our daughter. Is that so hard to believe?" I wanted to push harder. But Diane started crying and I felt guilty for upsetting her. I let it go. I told myself I was overreacting. That Thanksgiving, Stephanie did not come home. She said she had a group project that required her to stay on campus. Diane was disappointed but understanding. I was devastated. I had been looking forward to seeing her for months. I cooked a turkey anyway, made all the traditional sides, mashed potatoes, gravy, green beans, cranberry sauce. I set 3 places at the table out of habit. Diane and I ate in silence. The empty chair across from us felt like an accusation. Christmas came and Stephanie finally agreed to visit. I was overjoyed. I decorated the house more than I had in years. I bought presents, carefully trying to choose things she would actually like. She arrived with a young man I had never heard of before. His name was Marcus. He was polite enough, shaking my hand and complimenting the house. But there was something about him I did not trust. Maybe it was the way he looked at everything like he was appraising it. Or maybe it was just me being an overprotective father. Stephanie spent most of the visit with Marcus. They would disappear for hours, going for drives or watching movies in her room. When they did join us for meals, Stephanie barely spoke to me. All her attention was on him. On Christmas Eve, I was walking past her room when I heard voices inside. The door was slightly open. I know I should not have listened, but I could not help myself. "Why did you even come?" Marcus asked. "My mom guilt-tripped me into it," Stephanie said. "Trust me, I have nothing to say to him. He was never there when I was growing up. He thinks he can just buy my love now. It does not work like that." I felt something inside me break. My own daughter thought I was trying to buy her love. She thought I had abandoned her. How could she believe that I had worked myself to exhaustion for her? Everything I did was for her. I went to my bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. Diane found me there later, staring at the wall. "What is wrong?" she asked. "Nothing," I said. "Just tired." The day after Christmas, I decided I could not take it anymore. I asked Stephanie if we could talk privately. She agreed reluctantly. We sat in the living room. Marcus was upstairs packing. Diane was in the kitchen pretending not to listen. "Stephanie," I began, "I feel like there is a wall between us. I do not understand what I did wrong. Please help me understand." She stared at me with cold eyes. "You really do not know," she said. "You were never there, Dad. Never. You think working all the time makes you a good father. You missed every single thing that mattered. Every recital, every soccer game, every school play. You were not there when I needed help with homework. You were not there when I had my first heartbreak. You were not there for anything." "I was working," I said. "For you. For this family." "No," she shot back. "You were hiding. You used work as an excuse to avoid us. And now you want to pretend like everything is fine. It is not fine. It has never been fine." She stood up, tears in her eyes. "I am leaving," she said. "Marcus and I are going back to California today. Do not bother calling me. I need space." She walked out of the room. An hour later, she and Marcus drove away. She did not say goodbye. I watched from the window as the car disappeared down the street. Diane came up behind me and put her hand on my shoulder, but she did not say anything. No comfort, no explanation, just silence. That night, I sat in Stephanie's empty room, holding a photograph from her first day of kindergarten. In the picture, she was holding my hand and smiling up at me with complete trust. The little girl who used to hold my hand was gone, and I did not know if she would ever come back. After that Christmas, Stephanie stopped responding entirely. No more texts, no more calls. When I tried to reach her, my calls went straight to voicemail. My messages were left on read. I tried everything. I sent letters to her apartment. I sent birthday cards every year, each one with a check inside and a note telling her how much I loved her. I never heard back. I did not even know if she received them. 3 years passed. 3 years of silence. I started to fall apart. The man I had been, the hard worker who never complained, began to crumble. I lost interest in work. I took early retirement because I could not focus on anything anymore. The things I used to enjoy felt meaningless. Every day I would sit on the porch and stare at my phone, waiting for a message that never came, hoping for a call that never arrived. Sleep became impossible. I would lie awake at night replaying every conversation, every moment, trying to figure out where I went wrong. What had I done that was so terrible? Why did my daughter hate me so much? My health suffered. I lost weight. My doctor said my blood pressure was dangerously high. He told me to reduce stress, but how could I? The stress was not from work. It was from losing my child. Diane watched all of this happen. She saw me declining, but whenever I brought up Stephanie, she would change the subject. "Give her time," she would say. "She needs to work through things on her own." But it had been 3 years. How much time did she need? Then I discovered something that shattered what little peace I had left. One afternoon, Diane left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went to shower. It buzzed with a notification. I glanced at it without thinking. The message was from Stephanie. "Thanks for the check, Mom. Daniel loves the toy you sent. Call you tomorrow. Love you." I stared at the screen. My heart stopped. Stephanie was texting her mother. Not just texting. They were having regular conversations. Diane had been in contact with our daughter this whole time. And who was Daniel? When Diane came back to the kitchen, I was sitting at the table with her phone in my hand. "What is this?" I asked quietly. Her face went white. "Brady, I can explain. You have been talking to Stephanie for how long?" Diane sat down across from me. Her hands were shaking. "She asked me not to tell you," Diane said. "She said she was not ready to talk to you yet." Not ready. I felt something boiling inside me. "It has been 3 years, Diane. 3 years of hell for me. And you have been chatting with her like nothing is wrong." "It is not that simple," Diane said. "Then explain it to me." "Who is Daniel?" Diane looked down at the table. She did not answer. "Who is Daniel?" I repeated louder this time. "He is your grandson," Diane whispered. "Stephanie had a baby 2 years ago. His name is Daniel." The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. I had a grandson. A 2-year-old grandson I had never met. Never been told about. "Why?" I could barely get the word out. "Why did you keep this from me?" "Stephanie asked me to," Diane said. "She said she would tell you when she was ready. And you just went along with that. You let me suffer for 3 years thinking my daughter hated me, and the whole time you were sending gifts to my grandson." Diane started crying. I did not know what else to do, Brady. I was caught in the middle. I stood up from the table. I could not look at her anymore. "You made a choice," I said, "and you did not choose me." I walked out of the kitchen and went to my truck. I drove for hours not knowing where I was going. I ended up at a park where I used to take Stephanie when she was little. I sat on a bench and watched children playing on the swings. Somewhere in California, my grandson was growing up without knowing his grandfather, and my wife had helped make sure of that. The nights after that discovery were even harder. I would lie in bed next to Diane, but it felt like there was an ocean between us. She tried to talk to me, tried to explain, but I could not hear her. Everything she said sounded like excuses. I started paying closer attention to her behavior. The secret phone calls, the whispered conversations, the times she would leave the house and come back with shopping bags she quickly hid. One night, I heard her talking on the phone in the garage. I stood by the door listening. "He will find out eventually," she said. "But not from the box. Promise me you will not tell him about the box." The box. What box? I went back to bed before she caught me. But that phrase stayed with me. It echoed in my head for days. What was in this box, and why was Diane so determined to keep it from me? 3 years of silence can change a man. I had stopped hoping for a phone call. I had stopped expecting anything at all. I learned to live with the emptiness. I learned to survive on memories of who my daughter used to be. And maybe that is why when the box arrived, I was not ready for what would happen next. Father's Day morning. I woke up at 5:30 the way I always do. Old habits from decades of early work shifts do not disappear just because you retire. I made coffee and went to sit on the porch. The sun was just coming up, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It would have been beautiful if I had been in the mood to notice. Father's Day had lost its meaning for me. The last card I received from Stephanie was 4 years ago, and it was clearly something Diane had forced her to write. After that, nothing. No calls, no cards, no acknowledgement that I existed. I sipped my coffee and watched the neighborhood wake up. A few joggers passed by. The Hendersons from down the street walked their dog. Normal people living normal lives. Around 10 o'clock, the mail truck pulled up. The mailman, a friendly guy named Carl, who had been delivering on this route for years, walked up to my porch with a package. "Morning, Brady," he said. "Got something for you? Looks like it came from California." California. My hand trembled as I took the box. It was medium-sized, maybe a foot square, not heavy. The return address showed Stephanie's name. "Thanks, Carl," I managed to say. He nodded and went on his way. I just stood there holding the box, unable to move. After 3 years of silence, my daughter had sent me something for Father's Day. I did not know whether to laugh or cry. I sat back down in my chair and placed the box on my lap. My fingers traced the edges. What could be inside an olive branch, an explanation, an apology, or something worse? I was just about to open it when the front door swung open. Diane stood there. Her face was pale, almost gray. Her eyes were wide with something that looked like terror. "Don't open it," she whispered. I looked at her. "What?" "That box." Her voice was shaking. "Don't open it, Brady, please." She stepped onto the porch, her hands wringing together. I had never seen her this frightened. Not even when her father died. Not even when Stephanie stopped talking to us. "Why not?" I asked. "It is from Stephanie." She finally reached out. "You do not understand." Diane was almost pleading now. "If you open that box, everything will change." "Change how?" I demanded. What is in here that you are so afraid of? She would not answer. She just shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I looked at my wife, the woman I had loved for over 30 years, the woman I had trusted with everything, and I realized that I did not know her at all. Diane, I said slowly, I have spent 3 years in the dark. 3 years thinking my daughter hated me. 3 years of hell while you were chatting with her behind my back. Whatever is in this box, I deserve to know. Brady, please, she begged. No. I picked at the tape sealing the box. No more secrets. Diane sank into the chair across from me. She buried her face in her hands. I took a deep breath and opened the box. Inside there were several items. A handwritten letter several pages long. A small photo album with a blue cover. A USB drive in a plastic case. And at the bottom, a photograph. I picked up the photograph first. It was a black and white image with familiar shapes. It took me a moment to realize what I was looking at. An ultrasound. I looked closer. In the corner, there was a date from about 3 years ago, and 2 words written in marker, "It's a boy." I looked up at Diane. She was watching me through her fingers, tears rolling down her cheeks. You knew, I said. You knew she was pregnant. You knew she had the baby. And you never told me. Brady. What else? I picked up the letter. What else have you been hiding? Diane did not answer. She just sat there sobbing. I unfolded the letter and began to read. What I found inside those pages would turn my entire world upside down. The letter was written in Stephanie's handwriting. I recognized the loops and curves from years of birthday cards and school notes. But the words she had written were nothing I ever expected to read. Dear Dad, it began. I do not know how to start this letter. I have written it 100 times and thrown away every version. But I cannot stay silent anymore. You deserve the truth. You have always deserved the truth. I kept reading. My hands trembled. My vision blurred with tears that I refused to let fall. Stephanie explained that she had given birth to a son named Daniel 2 years ago. He was now a happy, healthy toddler who looked just like me when I was young. She was sorry I had never met him. She was sorry for so many things. But then the letter took a turn I did not expect. Dad, I need to tell you why I pulled away. Why I said those terrible things. Why I have been so cold to you for so many years. It was not because of anything you did. It was because of what I was told. My heart pounded as I read the next section. When I was little, Mom used to talk to me when you were at work. She would say things that I did not understand at the time. She said you did not really love us. She said you only cared about work. She said you stayed away because you did not want to be around us. I looked up at Diane. She was staring at the floor. She told me that when I was a baby you wanted to leave. She said you almost walked out on us, but she convinced you to stay. She said you resented us for trapping you in a life you did not want. My blood ran cold. None of that was true. Not a single word of it. I grew up believing that, Dad. I thought you did not care about me. Every time you were late for dinner or missed a school event, I told myself it was proof that Mom was right. I built a wall around my heart because I thought I was protecting myself from someone who did not love me. The letter continued for several more pages. Stephanie described how her resentment grew over the years, fed by Diane's constant whispers. By the time she was a teenager, she fully believed her father was a cold, absent man who saw his family as a burden. I am so sorry, Dad. I am sorry for every cruel word I said. I am sorry for cutting you out of my life. I was wrong. I was so wrong. She explained what had finally changed her mind. After Daniel was born, I started thinking about what it means to be a parent. I thought about all the things you did that I never appreciated. The way you always came to my room at night. The way you never complained about working long hours. The birthday presents you gave me that I threw back in your face. She had started going through old boxes that Diane had shipped to her over the years. Inside one of them, she found letters. They were letters you wrote to me, Dad. Birthday cards. Notes saying how proud you were of me. Mom told me you never wrote anything. She said you did not care enough to put pen to paper. But the letters were there. Dozens of them. She had kept them from me my whole life. She also found gifts. Presents from birthdays and Christmases that Diane had claimed I never bothered to get. They were all there still in their original wrapping, hidden away in boxes. I realized that everything Mom told me was a lie. You did not abandon me. You loved me. You always loved me. She was the one who drove us apart. The final section of the letter was about the USB drive. I recorded a video for you. I want you to see Daniel. I want you to hear him say, Grandpa. I have been showing him your picture for months, getting him ready to meet you. Please, Dad. Please come to California. I want to start over. I want you to know your grandson. I want us to be a family again. I put the letter down. My whole body was shaking. I looked at Diane. She was still crying, her face red and swollen. Is it true? I asked. My voice did not sound like my own. Did you tell her those things? Diane finally looked up at me. The guilt in her eyes was all the answer I needed. I did not mean for it to go this far, she said. When Stephanie was little, she adored you. She only wanted you. And I was jealous, Brady. I was home with her all day, and she still wanted Daddy. It hurt. So you poisoned her against me. I just wanted her to love me too. Diane's voice cracked. I started saying little things. I did not think she would take them so seriously. But she did. And by the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. She already believed it all. The letters, I said. The gifts. You hid them from her. Diane nodded, sobbing. I was afraid if she saw them, she would realize I had been lying. I kept digging myself deeper. I could not stop. I stood up from my chair. My legs felt weak, but I needed to get away from her. You stole my daughter from me, I said. You stole years I can never get back. Years of watching my grandson grow up. Years of being a father. Brady, please. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I shook my head. Sorry does not give me back what you took. I walked off the porch and got into my truck. I did not know where I was going. I just knew I could not stay in that house for another minute. I drove until the sun went down. Then I pulled over at a rest stop and sat in the darkness. For 3 years, I had blamed myself. I had tortured myself trying to figure out what I did wrong. I had accepted that I was a bad father. But it was all a lie. A lie created by the person I trusted most in the world. I looked at my phone. I had Stephanie's new address from the return label on the box. California was a long drive, nearly 2,000 miles. But my grandson was there. My daughter was there. And for the first time in 3 years, I had hope. I started the engine and pulled back onto the highway. I was going to meet my grandson. I was going to rebuild what was broken. And nothing was going to stop me. I drove through the night and into the next day. I stopped only for gas and coffee. Sleep could wait. I had waited long enough. 32 hours after leaving Ohio, I pulled onto a quiet street in a suburb of Los Angeles. The houses were small but well kept. Trees lined the sidewalks. It was a nice neighborhood for raising a child. I parked in front of a little house with a blue door. There was a plastic tricycle on the front lawn. My heart clenched at the sight of it. I sat in the truck for a long time trying to gather my courage. What if Stephanie had changed her mind? What if she did not want to see me? What if the letter was just words on paper that meant nothing, but I had driven 2,000 miles? I was not going to turn back now. I walked up to the door and knocked. For a moment, nothing happened. Then I heard footsteps. The door opened. Stephanie stood there. She looked older than I remembered, tired but beautiful. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "Dad." "Hey, sweetheart," I said. My voice broke on the words. And then she was in my arms, hugging me tighter than she had since she was a little girl. Her body shook with sobs, and mine did too. We stood there in the doorway, two broken people trying to put themselves back together. "I am so sorry, Dad," she said against my shoulder. "I am so sorry for everything." "It is okay," I said. "It is going to be okay now." We went inside. The house was small but cozy, filled with toys and books and evidence of a happy child. Stephanie led me to the living room and called out, "Daniel, come here. There is someone I want you to meet." A little boy came running around the corner. He had brown hair and big brown eyes that looked exactly like mine did in photos from when I was young. He was wearing a shirt with a dinosaur on it and socks with little cars. "Daniel," Stephanie said, "this is your grandpa. Remember the pictures I showed you?" The boy looked at me with curious eyes. Then his face broke into a smile. "Grandpa," he shouted and ran straight into my legs. I knelt down and wrapped my arms around him. This tiny person, this piece of my heart that I had not known existed. He smelled like graham crackers and baby shampoo. He felt like everything I had been missing. "That is right, buddy," I said, my voice rough with emotion. "I am your grandpa, and I am so happy to meet you." I stayed in California for 2 weeks. Every day was a gift. Stephanie and I talked for hours. She told me everything about the years we had lost. She told me about her relationship with Marcus, how it had fallen apart shortly after Daniel was born. She was a single mother now working as a graphic designer from home so she could be there for her son. I told her about my side of things, the silent dinners, the lonely holidays, the despair of thinking my daughter hated me for reasons I could not understand. We cried together. We laughed together. We started healing together. Daniel followed me everywhere. He wanted Grandpa to read his books. He wanted Grandpa to play with his trucks. He wanted Grandpa to push him on the swings at the park. I gave him every minute of attention I had. I was making up for lost time. At the end of the 2 weeks, I knew I had to go back to Ohio. There were things I needed to deal with, decisions I needed to make. Stephanie hugged me at the airport. "Will you come back, Dad?" she asked. "Try and stop me," I said. "I will be here every chance I get." "What are you going to do about Mom?" I sighed. That was a question I had been wrestling with. "I do not know yet," I said honestly. "But I know that I cannot go back to the way things were. She has to face what she did." Stephanie nodded. "I understand. I am not ready to talk to her either. Maybe someday. But not now." I flew back to Ohio. When I got home, I did not go to the house. I went to a motel and rented a room for the week. The next day, I called Diane and asked her to meet me at a coffee shop. Neutral ground. She looked terrible when she arrived. She had not slept. Her eyes were red from crying. Brady, she said as she sat down. Please, let me explain. Let me make this right. I shook my head. You cannot make this right, Diane. You took something from me that can never be replaced. 20 years of memories with my daughter. The first steps of my grandson. His first words. His first birthday. All of it gone. Because of you. I know, she whispered. I know what I did was wrong. I have lived with that guilt for years. But I love you, Brady. I love our family. Please do not throw it all away. I looked at the woman I had married. The woman I thought I knew. I am not throwing anything away, I said. You did that a long time ago. You just made sure I did not know about it. I told her I was moving out. I had already found an apartment. I needed time and space to figure out my life. Diane begged me to reconsider. She promised she would change, promised she would do anything to fix things. But I had heard enough promises from her. Maybe someday I can forgive you, I said. But I will never trust you again. And a marriage without trust is not a marriage at all. I stood up and walked out of the coffee shop. I did not look back. The months that followed were hard, but they were also healing. I flew to California once a month to see Stephanie and Daniel. Each visit was better than the last. Daniel started calling me on the phone just to tell me about his day. Grandpa, I had chicken nuggets. Grandpa, I saw a fire truck. Every call was a treasure. I started writing again, something I had given up years ago. I bought a journal and began recording my thoughts, the lessons I had learned, the pain I had survived, the hope I had found. I made new friends, joined a walking group for seniors, started volunteering at a community center teaching woodworking to kids. I found purpose in ways I had never expected. And slowly, day by day, I started to feel like myself again. Not the broken man who sat on the porch waiting for a call that never came, but someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who had been to the bottom and climbed back up. Do I still think about Diane sometimes? Do I miss the life we had? In some ways, yes. But that life was built on lies. The truth was painful, but it set me free. Stephanie and I are closer now than we ever were. She calls me twice a week. She sends pictures of Daniel every day. We are planning for them to come visit Ohio next summer. I'm going to teach that boy how to fish just like my father never got the chance to teach me. I sit on my porch most evenings now, but I am not waiting for anything anymore. I am just enjoying the sunset, enjoying the peace, enjoying the second chance I never thought I would get. Looking back on everything that happened, I have learned a few things. The first is that the deepest betrayals come from the people closest to us. Diane did not destroy my relationship with my daughter out of malice. She did it out of insecurity and fear. That does not excuse what she did, but it helps me understand. Hurt people hurt people. The second lesson is that it is never too late to rebuild. I spent 3 years thinking my daughter was lost to me forever. But one box changed everything. One moment of courage, one decision to keep reaching out, opened a door I thought was permanently closed. The third lesson is the most important one. Forgiveness is not about the other person. It is about yourself. I chose not to carry anger toward Diane, not because she deserves my forgiveness, but because I deserve to be free of that weight. Resentment is a poison you drink while hoping the other person gets sick. I will not do that to myself. And so, my friend, I leave you with this thought. Maybe there is a box in your life that you are afraid to open. Maybe there is a truth you have been avoiding, a conversation you have been putting off, a relationship you have given up on. I am here to tell you that sometimes the thing we fear most is the very thing that will set us free. That Father's Day, I did not just receive a package. I received a second chance, a chance to know my grandson, a chance to rebuild with my daughter, a chance to become the man I was always meant to be. If you have ever felt lost or betrayed or forgotten, I want you to know that your story is not over. As long as you are breathing, there is still time. There is still hope. There is still the possibility of something beautiful waiting for you on the other side of the pain. Now I have a question for you. Have you ever discovered a secret that changed everything you thought you knew? How did you handle it? Drop your answer in the comments below. I read every single one, and your story might help someone else who is going through something similar. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these videos and hear stories that might change their lives. And if you are not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Join this community. We are all here to support each other. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. You never know whose life you might change with a simple click. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope that wherever you are, whatever you are facing, you find the courage to open your own box. The truth might be scary, but on the other side of that fear is freedom. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other.